The Buddha discovered something about anxiety that most people never learn. But first, place one hand on your heart. Feel the warmth of your palm, the gentle rise and fall. This is where anxiety lives, and this is where peace has been waiting. What if I told you that for 2,500 years, millions of people have found freedom not by fighting this feeling, but by understanding what it's trying to tell you? For the next few hours, we're going on a journey together, not through your mind, but through your body, through your breath, through the wisdom that's already present. The Buddha called it coming home. And here's what's beautiful. You're already home. You just forgot. Before we begin, if it feels right, share where you're listening from in the comments. Tokyo at dawn, London on your lunch break, New York in the middle of the night. I'm here, and I love knowing we're connected across the world right now. Get comfortable. Grab a blanket if you'd like. Dim the lights. Lie down if that feels good. This is your time. Let me tell you about a merchant who came to the Buddha one morning, hands shaking, unable to breathe. He said, "I can't live like this anymore." The Buddha didn't give him techniques. He didn't tell him to breathe deeper or think differently. He said something that transformed everything. First, let us sit together. That's where we begin. The merchant's name was Soma, and he hadn't slept properly in weeks. Every night he'd lie awake, calculating losses, imagining disasters, replaying the day's transactions, looking for mistakes. His ships were at sea, carrying goods across dangerous waters, and anything could happen. Pirates, storms, spoiled cargo, financial ruin. That morning, when he found the Buddha sitting under a tree outside the city, Soma collapsed to his knees. "I can't live like this anymore," he said. "My mind won't stop. Every sound makes me jump. I check my accounts constantly, but the worry never leaves. My heart races even when I'm standing still. What's wrong with me?" The Buddha looked at him with tremendous kindness. Not pity, but recognition. He'd seen this suffering before. The restless mind, the agitated body, the exhaustion of perpetual vigilance. First, the Buddha said, "Let us sit together." They sat in silence for a long while. Soma's mind kept racing. He had things to do, problems to solve. Why was he wasting time sitting? But gradually, something began to shift. The Buddha wasn't trying to fix him or teach him or give him answers. He was simply present. And in that presence, Soma felt something he hadn't felt in months. He wasn't alone with his terror. After a time, the Buddha spoke. "What you're experiencing has a name," he said. "Udaka, kukuka, restlessness, and worry. It's one of 5 hindrances that cloud the mind's natural clarity." Soma leaned forward. A name, a recognition that this wasn't unique to him, that others had experienced this too. This itself brought a small measure of relief. "Tell me about your ships," the Buddha said. Soma began listing his worries: the weather, the pirates, the markets, the competition. The Buddha listened without interrupting. When Soma finished, the Buddha asked, "And right now, in this moment, are your ships sinking?" "No," Soma admitted, "but they could be." "Right now, are pirates attacking them?" "No, but they might." "Right now, in this moment under this tree, what is actually happening?" Soma paused. He heard birds singing. He felt the morning breeze. He noticed the dappled sunlight through leaves. "Nothing," he said quietly. "Nothing is happening." "Exactly," the Buddha said. "Your ships are at sea. Your mind is at sea. But your body is here. Right now, you're safe. The danger exists only in your thoughts about the future." This conversation happened 2,500 years ago, but it could have happened yesterday. Because anxiety doesn't really change across centuries, only its objects change. Soma worried about ships. We worry about emails, bank accounts, health diagnoses, what someone meant by their text message, whether we're good enough. There's a woman who checks her front door lock 7 times before she can leave for work. 7 times. She locks it, walks to her car, feels that familiar spike of doubt, and returns. Lock it again. Touch the handle. Pull. Still locked. But the doubt rises again before she reaches the end of her driveway. She knows, intellectually, the door is locked after the first time. But knowing doesn't help. The anxiety whispers, "What if?" So she checks again, and again. Just like Soma checked his accounts, replayed his decisions, calculated and recalculated, looking for the certainty that never came. The Buddha identified 5 specific mental states that obscure our natural clarity, and he called them hindrances. The first is sensory desire, the reaching for pleasant experiences to avoid unpleasant ones. The second is ill will, the pushing away of what we don't want. The third is sloth and torpor, the heaviness and dullness that comes from disconnection. The fourth is doubt, the paralyzing uncertainty that prevents commitment to any path. And the fifth is uddhacca kukkuca, restlessness and worry. This is the hindrance most of us know intimately, the mind that won't settle, the thoughts that spiral, the body that can't relax, even when there's no immediate danger. Your anxiety might not look like checking locks or worrying about ships. Maybe it's checking your phone 40 times an hour, refreshing email, scrolling through news feeds, looking for the next disaster. Maybe it's replaying conversations, analyzing every word you said, wondering if you offended someone. Maybe it's lying awake at 3 a.m, running through tomorrow's to-do list, next week's deadlines, calculating odds, preparing for catastrophes that will probably never arrive. The forms vary, but the pattern is the same. The mind racing ahead or circling back, rarely resting in the present moment. The body tense, ready for threats that exist only in thought. And here's what makes it so exhausting. We respond to these mental threats the same way our ancestors responded to physical dangers. Fight, flight, or freeze. When your nervous system detects threat, whether it's a tiger in the forest or a difficult email you need to send, it doesn't distinguish. It just knows. Danger. React. Survive. So you fight. You try to control everything, manage every outcome, plan for every possibility. You create lists and systems and backup plans, believing that if you just prepare enough, you'll finally feel safe. Or you flee. You avoid the difficult conversation, postpone the decision, numb yourself with distraction, food, substances, scrolling, shopping, anything to not feel this feeling. Or you freeze. You become paralyzed, unable to move forward or backward, stuck in indecision, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of possibilities. And none of these responses actually resolve the anxiety. They just perpetuate it. Fighting creates more to fight against. Fleeing creates more to flee from. Freezing creates deeper overwhelm. The woman checking her locks thought that if she just checked one more time, she'd finally feel certain. But certainty never came, because the problem wasn't whether the door was locked. The problem was her relationship with uncertainty itself. When the Buddha sat with Soma that morning, he helped him see something crucial. The anxiety wasn't happening to him. It was happening through him, through conditioned patterns that had been learned, reinforced, strengthened over time. Your mind is trying to protect you, the Buddha explained. It learned that by worrying about danger, you might prevent it. By staying vigilant, you stay safe. Your mind thinks it's helping you survive. But it's not helping, Soma said. It's destroying me. Yes, the Buddha agreed, because the mind can't distinguish between real danger and imagined danger. It treats your thoughts about the future as if they're happening right now. So you live in perpetual emergency, exhausting yourself fighting battles that exist only in your imagination. Take a breath with me here. Just one slow breath. Notice it arriving, filling your lungs, releasing. This moment right now, are you in actual danger? Or are you safe, listening to these words, while your mind spins stories about other times and other possibilities? Now let me tell you something that happened one afternoon when the Buddha was teaching in a grove outside Savatthi. A farmer came running up to him, sweating and agitated, interrupting the teaching. "Excuse me, sir," he said breathlessly. "Have you seen my oxen? They've escaped into the forest, and I can't find them. Without those oxen, I can't plow my fields. Without plowing, my family will starve. Have you seen them?" The Buddha looked at him kindly and said, "I haven't seen your oxen, They may have gone further east. The farmer ran off in that direction, still frantic, still searching. After he left, the Buddha turned to his monks and said something remarkable. Fortunate are we who have nothing to lose. We who have no oxen sleep peacefully at night. We wake without worry. The farmer will chase his oxen all day, and when he finds them, he'll spend the night worrying they'll escape again. One of the younger monks raised his hand, confused. "But teacher," he said, "we have no oxen, no fields, no possessions. We own almost nothing. Yet many of us still lie awake at night. We still worry. If having nothing to lose brings peace, why are we still restless?" The Buddha smiled. "Then you must have oxen in your minds," he said. "Thoughts you're chasing through the forest, worries you can't catch, ideas about how things should be that keep escaping you. These invisible oxen are harder to find than the farmers, and they run faster. What are the oxen in your mind right now? Maybe it's the conversation from 3 days ago that you keep replaying, trying to find what you should have said differently. Maybe it's tomorrow's meeting, and you're chasing through future scenarios, trying to control an outcome that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's the idea of who you should be by now, successful, confident, together, and you're exhausting yourself, chasing that image while it runs ahead of you, always just out of reach. The farmer had real oxen that actually ran away. Your oxen might be completely invisible to anyone else, but they feel just as real to you, don't they? And you chase them just as frantically. This is what the Buddha meant by tanha, craving, thirst, the constant reaching and grasping quality of mind. It's not just wanting pleasant experiences, though that's part of it. It's this deeper pattern of always needing something to be different than it is right now. Watch yourself for just a moment. You check your email. There's a reaching for information, for reassurance that you haven't missed something important. You replay a conversation from earlier. There's a grasping for a different outcome, a wish that you'd been wittier, kinder, more impressive. You plan tomorrow. There's craving for control over a future that hasn't arrived yet. These aren't dramatic cravings. They're subtler than that. The constant hum of wanting underneath almost every moment. Wanting to know, wanting to control, wanting to be certain, wanting to be safe. In the Dhammapada, one of the earliest collections of the Buddha's teachings, he said simply, the root of suffering is attachment. Not attachment to things specifically, but this quality of clinging itself to experiences, to outcomes, to ideas about how life should unfold. He identified 3 specific forms this craving takes, and once you see them, you'll recognize them operating almost constantly. The first is kama tanha, craving for sensory pleasure. This is the reaching for pleasant experiences and the pushing away of unpleasant ones. It's the way you reach for your phone when you're bored, fill silence with sound, avoid discomfort with distraction. It's the constant, subtle seeking of something to make this moment better than it is. The second is bhavatana, craving for existence or becoming. This is the need to be somebody, to achieve something, to prove your worth, to build an identity and defend it. This is where so much anxiety lives. The pressure to succeed, to be seen as competent, to maintain an image, to become who you think you should be. Every time you think, I need to be more productive, or I should be further along by now, that's bhava, tanha, speaking. It's the exhausting project of constantly becoming, improving, achieving, chasing an idealized version of yourself that stays forever ahead, like oxen running through the forest. And the third is vibhavatanya, craving for non-existence or cessation. This is the flip side of becoming. It's the wish to disappear, to not feel, to escape from this life, or this moment, or this unbearable feeling. It's the fantasy of running away, starting over somewhere else, where nobody knows your failures. It's the urge to numb out, check out, disconnect. And yes, in its most extreme form, it's the wish to simply not exist anymore. Notice right now, what are your hands doing? Are they clenched? Is there tension in your fingers? What about your jaw? Is it tight? Your shoulders? Are they up near your ears? These physical tensions are your body's way of holding on, of trying to control, of gripping against the fundamental uncertainty of existence. You're using muscular energy to hold on to things you can't actually grasp. If you can, soften your hands right now. Let your jaw release just slightly. Let your shoulders drop even a 1/4 inch. Notice what that feels like. The relief of releasing, even for a moment. The grip. Here's the paradox the Buddha saw so clearly. The more we try to control life, the more chaotic it feels. The tighter we grip, the more slips through our fingers like water. The harder we chase our mental oxen, the faster they run. Life is uncertain, completely, utterly, undeniably uncertain. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, next week, next year. We don't know if our plans will work out. This uncertainty is not a problem to be solved. It's the very texture of existence. And our anxiety, it's the mind's rebellion against this truth. The desperate attempt to create certainty where none exists, to control what can't be controlled. But here's what's beautiful. Once you recognize this pattern, really see it operating, not just understand it intellectually, something begins to shift. Not because you force it to shift, but because clear seeing itself is transformative. The woman who checked the lock 7 times didn't overcome her anxiety by developing better checking techniques. She began to see the pattern itself, the way the checking never actually brought certainty, just temporary relief, followed immediately by more doubt. And in that seeing, gradually, the compulsion loosened its hold. Now let me share something the Buddha taught that's crucial for understanding why anxiety takes such deep hold of us and how we can begin to free ourselves. He said there are 3 characteristics present in all of existence, 3 marks that define everything in this realm of form and experience. And our suffering arises directly from not seeing these characteristics clearly. The first characteristic is anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Everything. Always. No exceptions. Have you ever watched clouds dissolve? One moment there's a clear, defined form, a tower of white against deep blue, and then it begins to soften at the edges, thin out, blend with the surrounding air until you can't quite say when the cloud ended and the sky began. That's happening with everything, all the time. Your body is changing with every breath, cells dying, new cells being born, molecules constantly rearranging themselves. Your thoughts are changing, arising, transforming, dissolving, even as you try to hold on to them. Your relationships are changing. Your circumstances are changing. The person you were when you started listening is not quite the same person hearing these words now. And yet we live as if things should stay the same. We expect yesterday's certainty to hold for today and tomorrow. We make plans as if the future will unfold according to our designs. We try to freeze moments we love and prevent changes we fear. This fight is profoundly exhausting because we're not fighting against a temporary condition. We're fighting against the fundamental nature of reality. It's like standing in a flowing river, trying to keep the water from moving. Your anxiety about the future, what is it trying to do? It's trying to make the future certain, controllable, knowable. But the future is made of the same impermanent substance as everything else. It hasn't happened yet. And even when it arrives, it will immediately begin changing into something else. The Buddha wasn't being pessimistic when he taught about impermanence. He was offering a key to freedom. Because if everything changes, everything, including this anxious moment you're in right now, then this feeling won't last forever. This difficulty will pass. Nothing stays the same, not even suffering. The second characteristic is dukkha. This word is usually translated as suffering, but that's not quite accurate. It's more like unsatisfactoriness, incompleteness, a subtle, pervasive sense that something's not quite enough. This isn't clinical depression or constant misery. It's subtler than that. It's the way even genuinely good experiences carry within them a tinge of incompleteness when we look closely enough. Think about the best vacation you've ever taken. Remember the anticipation, the excitement, the joy of being there. Now remember that subtle awareness, maybe on the last day, that this couldn't last forever, that you'd have to return home, that this perfect moment was already slipping away. That awareness of ending, even in the midst of enjoyment, that's dukkha. It's not that the vacation was bad, but there's an inherent incompleteness in all conditioned experiences because they're all impermanent. And the part of us that wants to hold on creates the subtle suffering even in pleasant moments. Anxiety is a particular manifestation of dukkha. It's the unsatisfactoriness of uncertainty, the incompleteness of never having quite enough information, enough control, enough guarantee of safety. No matter how much you prepare or worry, there's always more that could go wrong. But here's what the Buddha saw. The suffering isn't in the impermanence itself. It's in our clinging to permanence, our demand that things stay the same when their nature is to change. The unsatisfactoriness isn't inherent in the experience. It's in our relationship to the experience. And now we come to the third mark, and this one is truly revolutionary. Anatta, non-self. There was a woman at a meditation retreat, carrying so much anxiety she couldn't sit still for 5 minutes. On the third day, she approached the teacher in tears. "I am an anxious person," she said. "This is who I am, who I've always been. I can't change my fundamental nature." The teacher asked a simple question. Who is noticing the anxiety right now? She paused, confused. "I am," she said finally. "So there's anxiety happening," the teacher said slowly, "and there's an awareness that knows anxiety is happening. Which one are you?" This question stopped her completely. For the first time in days, maybe months, maybe years, she recognized a space between herself and the anxious thoughts. She wasn't the anxiety. She was the awareness watching the anxiety arise, intensify, and eventually pass. This points to what anatta actually means. Not that you don't exist, obviously you do, but that there's no fixed, permanent, separate, unchanging self that you can point to and say definitively, "This is me, and this will always be me." What we call I or me is actually a collection of constantly changing processes. The Buddha called these the 5 aggregates, and understanding them is crucial for understanding why we suffer and how we can be free. First, there's form, your physical body. But your body is changing every single moment. Cells dying and being born, breath flowing in and out, sensations arising and passing. Which version of your body is the real you? Second, there are feelings, not emotions, but the basic tone of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral that colors every experience. These feelings are constantly shifting too, moment to moment. Are you the pleasant feeling? The unpleasant one? They can't both be you, and neither one lasts. Third, there's perception, the way you recognize and label things, how you make sense of raw sensation by comparing it to past experience. But your perceptions are conditioned by memory, culture, mood, context. They're interpretations, not absolute truths. Fourth, there are mental formations, thoughts, emotions, impulses, reactions, all the complex activities of mind. And this is where anxiety lives. It's a mental formation, a pattern that arises from causes and conditions, past experiences, current triggers, biological factors, learned responses. It comes, it goes, it changes in intensity. Fifth, there's consciousness itself, the knowing quality, the awareness that's present with every experience. But even consciousness changes depending on what it's aware of, what state your body is in, whether you're tired or alert. So which of these five is the real you? The body that's constantly changing, the feelings that shift moment to moment, the perceptions that differ from everyone else's, the mental formations that arise and pass like weather, the consciousness that changes with every new object of awareness. The Buddha's radical insight was that none of them is you, and all of them together aren't a permanent, unified you either. They're processes, interdependent and constantly changing, creating the experience of being a person without there being a fixed, separate, permanent self at the core. And anxiety, it's just a mental formation, one pattern among countless others. It's conditioned, not essential. It arises when certain conditions are present and fades when those conditions change. It's not your identity, not who you fundamentally are. You are not the storm of anxiety. You are the vast sky in which the storm appears. The storm can be fierce, dark, overwhelming, but it's temporary, conditioned, not the nature of the sky itself. The sky doesn't become the storm. It allows the storm to pass through. Take a moment to feel this directly, not just think about it. Notice right now the awareness that's present, the knowing quality that's here. The awareness that knows you're listening to these words, that knows thoughts are present, that knows there might be anxiety or calm or anything else arising and passing. That awareness itself isn't anxious, is it? It simply is. Anxiety appears in it like a cloud in the sky, but the awareness itself, the sky of your being, remains untroubled, spacious, allowing. These three truths, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self, are not philosophical concepts to memorize or debate. They're direct observations you can make about your own experience, right here, right now. Your anxiety is impermanent. It arises with causes, intensifies, peaks, and eventually passes, no matter how convinced you are, in the midst of it, that it will last forever. Your anxiety is unsatisfactory. It promises that worrying will keep you safe, that controlling will bring peace, but it delivers only more tension, more exhaustion. Your anxiety is not self. It's a conditioned pattern, not your essence, not your identity, not who you truly are, beneath the weather of thoughts and feelings. And in seeing these truths clearly, repeatedly, with patience and compassion and honest attention, the grip of anxiety begins to loosen. Not because you've defeated it or achieved some permanent state of enlightenment, but because you've stopped fighting against reality itself, stopped trying to make the impermanent permanent, the unsatisfactory satisfying, the selfless into a solid, separate, unchanging thing. The Buddha called this wisdom, seeing things as they actually are, rather than as we wish them to be. And wisdom, he taught, is the beginning of genuine freedom from suffering. Sarah woke at 3 a.m. with her heart pounding. Again, the 3rd night this week. She lay in the dark, her husband breathing peacefully beside her, while her mind raced through an endless list. Did I send that email? Is my daughter struggling at school? What if I lose my job? What if something's wrong with my health? The thoughts came faster and faster, each one triggering another, until she felt like she was drowning in worry, with no one to hear her struggle. She got up, went to the kitchen, made tea she didn't want, and sat alone, in the dim light, wondering what was wrong with her. Why couldn't she just be normal? Why couldn't she sleep peacefully like everyone else seemed to? Why was she so broken? This is where the Buddha's teaching begins, not with solutions or techniques or positive affirmations, but with a profound and radical honesty. The first noble truth is dukkha sakka, the truth of suffering. And the Buddha's opening statement is remarkably simple. There is suffering. Not suffering is bad and you should get rid of it. Not suffering means you're doing something wrong. Not let's pretend everything is fine and think positive thoughts. Just this clear, honest recognition. Suffering exists. It's part of being human. It's here. The word dukkha is often translated as suffering, but that makes it sound more dramatic than the Buddha intended. Dukkha is more nuanced than that. It includes obvious suffering, physical pain, grief, anxiety, depression, but it also includes a subtler quality, unsatisfactoriness, stress, unease, the pervasive sense that something's not quite right, not quite enough, not quite settled. It's the way even good moments carry within them the seeds of their own ending. It's the restlessness underneath pleasure. It's the anxiety that creeps in even when things are going well. The voice that says, "But what if?" It's Sarah lying awake at 3 a.m, even though nothing bad is actually happening right now. In the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha's first teaching after his awakening, he said, "Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, illness is suffering, death is suffering. Association with what is displeasing is suffering. Separation from what is pleasing is suffering. Not getting what one wants is suffering. In other words, if you have a body, you will experience physical discomfort and decline. If you have relationships, you will experience conflict and loss. If you have desires, you will experience frustration and disappointment. This isn't pessimism, it's realism. And here's what's remarkable about starting here. It gives you permission to stop pretending. You don't have to perform happiness. You don't have to apologize for struggling. You don't have to fix yourself before you're allowed to acknowledge that this is hard. When Sarah finally talked to a friend about her sleepless nights, the friend said, "Me too. I thought I was the only one." That simple recognition, "Me too. This is hard. Suffering is real," created more relief than 100 self-help strategies. Your anxiety is dukkha. It's part of the human condition, not evidence of personal failure. The tightness in your chest, the racing thoughts, the inability to relax, the constant vigilance, this is suffering, and the Buddha saw it clearly 2,500 years ago in people just like you. And this is just the beginning of the teaching, because the Buddha didn't stop at suffering exists. He asked the next crucial question: why? There was a businessman named Marcus who had everything most people dream of: successful company, beautiful home, healthy family, financial security. And yet, he couldn't enjoy any of it. He was constantly chasing the next goal, the next achievement, the next milestone that would finally make him feel like he'd arrived. He'd reach a goal, double the revenue, buy the bigger house, get the prestigious award, and feel satisfied for maybe a day, maybe a week. Then the emptiness would return, and he'd set his sights on the next horizon, thinking, once I achieve that, then I'll finally be content. But the horizon kept moving. No matter how much he achieved, it was never quite enough. The goalpost kept shifting forward, always just out of reach. This is what the second noble truth addresses: samudaya, sakha, the truth of the origin of suffering. Suffering has a cause, and that cause is tana, craving, thirst, the grasping quality of mind that's always reaching for something other than what is. We explored this in the last section when we talked about the farmer's oxen and the 3 types of craving. But now we're going deeper, seeing how this craving doesn't just create discomfort. It's the actual root mechanism that generates and perpetuates our suffering. The Buddha was very specific about this. In the Samyutta Nikaya, he said, whatever suffering arises has craving as its root, craving as its origin. For craving is the root of suffering. Think about how this operates in your own anxiety. The anxiety itself is unpleasant. That's the first truth, the dukkha. But what keeps it going? What feeds it and makes it grow. It's the craving for certainty when life is fundamentally uncertain. It's the craving for control when so much is beyond your control. It's the craving for safety when being alive inherently involves risk. It's the grasping after the feeling of everything will be okay, which, even when you achieve it temporarily, immediately dissolves because life keeps changing. Let me show you how the 3 types of craving create anxiety in everyday moments. Kama tanha, craving for sensory pleasure, shows up as the reaching for anything that will make you feel better right now. You're anxious, so you reach for your phone, scroll mindlessly, trying to escape the discomfort. You pour a glass of wine, order takeout, shop online, binge a series, not because you really want these things, but because you're trying to soothe the unease. But the relief is temporary, and when it fades, the anxiety returns, often stronger, because now you also feel guilty about the coping mechanism. Bhavatana, craving for becoming, is the voice that says you need to be more, do more, achieve more, become somebody important, successful, admired. This creates enormous anxiety because you're never quite there yet, are you? There's always someone more successful, always another level to reach, always ways you're falling short of who you think you should be. Marcus lived here, endlessly chasing, never arriving. Every time you think, I should be more productive, that's bhava tanya. Every time you compare yourself to others and feel lacking, that's bhavatanha. Every time you need validation or achievement to feel worthy, that's bhavatana. And it's exhausting because the finish line keeps moving. Vibhava tanha, craving for non-existence, appears as the wish to escape, disappear, not feel this anymore. When anxiety becomes overwhelming, part of you just wants out. Maybe it's the fantasy of running away to a remote island where no one can find you. Maybe it's the urge to numb out completely, to disconnect from feeling anything at all. In its darkest form, it's the thought that you'd be better off not existing. These 3 forms of craving work together to create and maintain anxiety. You crave pleasure to escape discomfort, but the escape is temporary. You crave becoming to prove your worth, but the proving is endless. You crave non-existence when it all becomes too much, but that creates more suffering, more fear. And underneath all 3 is a deeper craving, the craving for certainty. If I just know what will happen, I can relax. Your mind tells you. If I can just control the outcome, I'll be safe. So, you plan, prepare, worry, imagine, calculate, trying to grasp the future and hold it still. But you can't. The future is made of the same uncertain, changing substance as everything else. And your attempts to control it just create more anxiety, more exhaustion, more suffering. Here's what the Buddha saw with such clarity. You're not suffering because bad things happen. You're suffering because your mind is constantly at war with reality, trying to make the uncertain certain, the impermanent permanent, the uncontrollable controllable. Your anxiety is your mind trying to protect you by controlling the uncontrollable. It's actually trying to help. It's just using a strategy that can't possibly work, like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more flows out. Let's take one slow breath together. Breathe in gently. Hold for a moment. Release slowly. Now, you might be thinking, this is depressing. First you tell me suffering is real. Then you tell me I'm causing it with my own mind. What's the point? And this is where the teaching transforms from honest diagnosis to genuine hope. There was a graduate student named Elena who had panic attacks so severe she considered dropping out of school. For months, she'd been trying everything to make the panic stop. Breathing exercises, medication, avoiding triggers, positive self-talk. Sometimes these things helped a little. Sometimes they didn't. But the underlying terror remained, waiting to surge up at any moment. Then she learned something that changed her entire relationship with panic. She could stop running from it. Not fight it, or overcome it, or be stronger than it. Just stop running. Stop treating it as the enemy. Stop believing she needed to get rid of it before she could live her life. The first time she sat with a panic attack instead of running, something remarkable happened. The panic came, heart racing, chest tight, thoughts spiraling, and she said to herself, "Okay, you're here. I'm not going to fight you. Do what you need to do." And the panic peaked, held for a few minutes, and then began to subside. Not because she fought it or controlled it or thought positive thoughts, but because she stopped adding her resistance to it. She stopped suffering about suffering. This is the third noble truth, Nirodhasaka, the truth of cessation. And it's the most hopeful thing the Buddha ever said. Freedom is possible. Nirodha means cessation, ending, the stopping of suffering. But here's what's crucial to understand. The Buddha didn't promise you'd never feel anxious again. He didn't promise life would become easy or that difficulties would disappear. He promised something more profound and more realistic. You wouldn't be enslaved by it anymore. The anxiety might still arise. You're human. You have a nervous system. You live in an uncertain world. But its grip releases. It stops controlling your life. It becomes something you experience rather than something you are. Think about the difference between being caught in a storm and watching a storm from shelter. Both involve the storm existing, but your relationship to it is completely different. You can watch the lightning, hear the thunder, see the rain without being swept away by it. This is what Nirodha points to, not the end of all discomfort, but the end of being overwhelmed by it, controlled by it, defined by it. And this isn't just theory. Real people have walked this path. Not just monks in monasteries, though them too. Regular people, teachers, parents, students, workers, people dealing with anxiety, depression, trauma, loss. People who found that peace is possible even when circumstances are difficult, even when the mind is still sometimes restless, even when life remains uncertain. You don't have to white-knuckle through life anymore, constantly fighting your own mind, exhausting yourself, trying to control what can't be controlled. There's another way. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said simply, there is a path to the end of suffering. Not, maybe there's a path, or for some people there's a path. There is a path. It's been walked by millions before you, and it's available to you right now, exactly as you are. And now, let me show you that path. Maya was an artist who'd stopped creating. Every time she sat down to work, anxiety would flood in. This isn't good enough. You're wasting your time, you'll never succeed. Who do you think you are? The inner critic was so loud she couldn't hear her own creative voice anymore. She tried to fight the critic, argue with it, prove it wrong. That didn't work. She tried to ignore it, push through it. That didn't work either. She was stuck, paralyzed between wanting to create and being terrified to try. Then she encountered the Buddha's fourth noble truth, Magga Sakka, the truth of the path. And she realized she'd been looking for a magic solution when what she needed was a practice, a way of being, a path to walk step by step. The fourth noble truth is the Noble Eightfold Path, and it's the Buddha's practical roadmap for moving from suffering to freedom. Not rules you must follow or commandments from on high, but invitations to live in a way that creates less suffering and more peace. Let me walk you through the 8 aspects, and as I do, notice how they're not separate techniques, but interconnected ways of bringing wisdom, ethics, and mental cultivation into your daily life. First is right view, samaditthi. This is seeing things as they actually are, rather than as you wish they were, or fear they might be. It's understanding the 4 noble truths we've been exploring, that suffering exists, has a cause, can cease, and there's a path forward. For Maya, right view meant seeing that her inner critic was a mental formation, not truth, not her identity, just conditioned thoughts, arising and passing. Second is right intention, sammasankappa. This is the quality of your motivation, the direction of your heart. The Buddha specified 3 aspects: renunciation of craving, goodwill toward all beings, and harmlessness. In terms of anxiety, right intention means approaching your anxiety with kindness rather than aggression, with curiosity rather than judgment, with the wish to understand rather than to fight. Third is right speech, Samavaka. This is speaking truthfully, speaking helpfully, speaking kindly, speaking at the right time. Notice how this applies not just to how you speak to others, but how you speak to yourself. The harsh self-talk that accompanies anxiety, "You're so weak, you're pathetic, everyone else has it together," this is not right speech. Learning to speak to yourself with the kindness you'd offer a struggling friend is part of the path. Fourth is right action, Sama Kamanta. This is acting in ways that don't cause harm to yourself or others. Traditionally, this includes not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, basic ethical guidelines. But in the context of anxiety, right action also means not harming yourself through self-destructive behaviors, not abandoning your values because anxiety tells you to, not letting fear dictate your choices. Fifth is right livelihood, Sama Ajiva. This is making your living in a way that doesn't cause suffering, that aligns with your values, that supports rather than undermines your practice. If your work is a major source of your anxiety, right livelihood asks you to honestly examine whether changes are needed, whether your current situation is sustainable, whether you're sacrificing too much of your well-being for security or success. Sixth is right effort, Samavayama. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects because people think it means trying harder, pushing more, being more disciplined. But the Buddha compared effort to tuning a musical instrument. Not too tight, not too loose. Right effort is balanced, sustainable, neither forcing nor giving up. It's showing up for your practice without aggression toward yourself. Seventh is right mindfulness, Sama Sati. This is present moment awareness, knowing what's happening while it's happening, without being swept away by it. It's noticing anxiety arising without immediately reacting, creating space between stimulus and response, seeing thoughts as thoughts rather than truth. This is perhaps the most crucial aspect for working with anxiety, and we'll explore it deeply in the sections ahead. Eighth is right concentration, Sama Samadhi. This is the ability to focus the mind, to gather attention, to rest in sustained awareness without being pulled away by every distraction. It's developed through meditation practice, and it provides the stability needed to actually see clearly and respond wisely rather than react habitually. Now, I know that might sound like a lot. 8 different things to practice, 8 ways to change how you live. But here's what's beautiful. They're not separate. They support each other, strengthen each other, flow into each other. The path is often organized into 3 training categories that make it more approachable. First is wisdom training, right view, and right intention, which is about understanding clearly and setting your direction. Second is ethics training, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, which is about living in alignment with your understanding. Third is meditation training, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, which is about cultivating the mind so you can actually embody what you understand. Maya started with mindfulness. She practiced noticing when the inner critic arose, recognizing it as just thoughts rather than truth. That built her capacity for right view, seeing the critic as a mental formation, not her identity, which supported right intention, approaching her creative practice with kindness rather than harsh perfectionism, which naturally led to right speech, changing how she talked to herself about her art. And slowly, step by step, she found her way back to creating, not because the anxiety disappeared, but because it no longer had the power to stop her. These aren't commandments, they're invitations, experiments to try, ways of being that you can practice imperfectly, gradually, at your own pace. Don't worry about mastering all 8 at once. We'll walk this path together, exploring the practices that will calm your mind right now, that will help you work with anxiety rather than against it, that will bring you home to the peace that's been here all along, beneath the storm. The Buddha taught the Eightfold Path not as a distant goal, but as a present practice. Each step you take is the path itself. Each moment of clear seeing, kind intention, mindful presence, that's freedom unfolding right now. And in the sections ahead, we'll bring these teachings down from the conceptual level into your actual lived experience, into the moments when anxiety grips you, into the practices that can genuinely transform your relationship with your own mind. There was a woman named Catherine who spent an entire year sitting by the same window, not because she was trapped or unable to move, but because that year she was recovering from surgery and couldn't do much else. So she sat and she watched. In March, a cherry tree outside her window erupted into bloom. For 2 weeks, it was breathtaking. Clouds of delicate pink petals, branches heavy with beauty, bees humming through the blossoms. She photographed it, called friends to tell them about it, felt her spirits lift every time she looked at it. Then came a rainstorm. In one night, all the petals fell. The next morning, the ground was carpeted in pink, and the tree stood bare again, green leaves beginning to unfurl where the flowers had been. She felt an unexpected grief. It was just a tree, just petals, but the loss felt significant somehow. She'd been holding on to that beauty, needing it to stay, and it hadn't stayed. Through spring, she watched leaves grow and darken. Through summer, the tree provided thick shade, branches full and heavy. Through autumn, the leaves turned gold, then bronze, then began to fall, one by one, and then in clusters, until by November, the tree was bare again, branches stark against grey sky. And through winter, she watched those bare branches, thinking the tree looked dead, finished. But in February, tiny buds appeared, and in March, impossibly, the blossoms returned. That year taught Catherine what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago: anicca, impermanence. everything changes. Everything. Always. No exceptions. But here's what Catherine learned that transformed her relationship with her own anxiety. Impermanence isn't a tragedy to mourn. It's the fundamental nature of reality, and once you stop fighting it, it becomes liberating rather than terrifying. We spend so much energy trying to keep things the same. We want the cherry blossoms to stay in bloom, the good moments to last forever, the comfortable circumstances to never change. And we want the difficult things, the anxiety, the pain, the uncertainty, to go away and never return. But that's like standing in a flowing river trying to hold the water still. You can cup your hands and catch a little for a moment, but the river keeps moving. It always has. It always will. And your attempts to stop it just exhaust you. Think about how you relate to time in your own life. You try to freeze the happy moments, taking photos, saying, "I never want this to end," wishing you could bottle the feeling. You try to speed through the difficult moments. "I just need to get through this," counting down days, wishing time would hurry up. You try to control the future, planning, preparing, worrying, imagining, trying to know what's coming so you can be ready. All of this is exhausting because you're fighting against the fundamental nature of existence. Time flows. Moments arise and pass. Everything that comes together eventually comes apart. Everything born eventually dies. Everything created eventually dissolves. In the Visuddhimagga, a classical Buddhist text, it says, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. All conditioned things. Everything that arises, dependent on causes and conditions, which is everything in your experience, is impermanent. Your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances, your relationships, your certainties, your fears, all of it changing, all the time, whether you want it to or not. And your anxiety, it's also impermanent. This is crucial to understand deeply, not just intellectually, but experientially. If you've ever had a panic attack, you know how it feels like it will never end. In the middle of it, time seems to stretch and warp. Your heart pounds. Your breath comes short. Terror floods your system, and every cell in your body screams that this is unbearable, that you can't survive this, that it's going to last forever. But it doesn't last forever. Panic attacks peak and then subside. They have to. It's physiologically impossible for your body to maintain that level of activation indefinitely. Usually within 10 minutes, often sooner, the intensity begins to drop. The wave rises, crests, and falls. Worried thoughts come and go too. Right now, you might be thinking about something that's bothering you, a conversation you need to have, a decision you need to make, a situation you can't control. But if I ask you what you were worried about 3 hours ago, you might not remember. The thoughts changed. Your focus shifted. The worry that felt so urgent earlier has already been replaced by different concerns, different thoughts, different mental formations. Even chronic anxiety, the kind that feels like it's been your constant companion for months or years, has fluctuations. Some days it's worse. Some days it's lighter. Some moments it's overwhelming. Some moments you forget about it entirely because you're absorbed in something else. It's not actually constant, even though it might feel that way. It rises and falls like waves, like breath, like everything else. There's a phrase that appears in many traditions: "This too shall pass." It sounds like a platitude until you really internalize it, until you make it your anchor in difficult moments. There was a man named David who learned to whisper this to himself during panic attacks. Not as a way to make the panic stop, that's still fighting it, but as a way to remember its nature. Temporary, he'd whisper. Temporary, temporary. Not go away or stop or "I can't handle this," but just this simple acknowledgement: this is temporary. This is changing right now. This is not permanent. And something shifted in how he related to the panic. He stopped adding the story of "this will never end" on top of the physical sensations. He stopped adding the fear of the fear. He just let it be what it was: a temporary storm in his nervous system, unpleasant, but not permanent, intense, but not endless. Let's pause here and notice impermanence directly, not as a concept, but as a living reality. Notice your breath right now. It's changing. Each inhale is different from the last, maybe slightly deeper or shallower, maybe cooler or warmer. Each exhale releases and makes space for something new. You can't hold your breath forever. The body won't let you. Breathing is a continuous cycle of change, and it's happening right now without you having to force it or figure it out. Notice sounds around you. They come and go, don't they? A car passes. A bird calls. A door closes. Silence returns. Then a different sound arises. Nothing stays. Even silence is constantly refreshing itself, moment by moment. Notice your thoughts. Even as you listen to these words, thoughts arise in the background, agreeing, disagreeing, remembering, planning, commenting. Where do they come from? Where do they go? You didn't decide to think them, and you can't hold on to them once they've passed. They're like clouds drifting through the sky of awareness, appearing, transforming, dissolving, replaced by new thoughts in an endless flow. This is anicca as direct experience, not philosophy. Everything in your field of awareness is in flux, in process, in motion. Nothing solid, nothing fixed, nothing you can grasp and keep. And here's the paradox that Catherine discovered by her window. Watching the seasons turn, accepting impermanence, brings more peace than trying to create permanence ever could. When she stopped grieving the fallen cherry blossoms and started appreciating them precisely because they were temporary, something softened in her. The beauty became more precious, not less, because it was fleeting. The bare winter branches became beautiful too, in their starkness, because she knew spring would return, but also because she learned to appreciate what was, right now, without needing it to be something else. When you stop fighting impermanence, you stop wasting enormous amounts of energy on an unwinnable battle. You stop trying to make your anxiety go away forever, which it won't, because you're human and you live in an uncertain world. Instead, you start meeting it as it is, a temporary state that will change, that's already changing, that doesn't need to be fixed or fought or frozen in place. You don't have to hold on so tight. Not to the good moments, trying to make them last. Not to the bad moments, trying to understand why they happened or prevent them from happening again. Not to your ideas about how things should be, or who you should be, or what needs to happen for you to finally be okay. You can hold everything more lightly, with open hands, knowing that it will change anyway, whether you clench your fists or not. And in that lightness, that non-grasping, there's profound relief. The cherry blossoms fall. The anxiety rises and falls. The breath comes and goes. And you, the awareness witnessing all of this, you remain spacious enough to hold it all without being broken by any of it. This is the wisdom of impermanence, not that everything you love will be taken away, but that everything is already in motion, already changing, and your freedom lies in flowing with that change rather than fighting against it. There was a father named James, whose daughter left for college across the country. For 18 years, he'd been the center of her world, teaching her to ride a bike, helping with homework, driving her to activities, being there for every milestone. And then, in one afternoon, she was gone. He couldn't sleep the first few nights. He'd walk past her empty bedroom and feel a physical ache in his chest. He wanted to call her constantly, to make sure she was okay, to keep being needed, to hold on to the relationship they'd had. But slowly, painfully, he learned what the Buddha meant by letting go. Not abandoning his daughter or stopping loving her, but releasing his grip on how their relationship had to be, on his need to be needed, on his fear of her growing away from him. This is one of the most misunderstood teachings in Buddhism: detachment. People hear that word and imagine coldness, indifference, not caring about anything or anyone. But that's not what the Buddha taught at all. Detachment, or non-clinging, which is a better translation, doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love without grasping, without demanding that people or circumstances be a certain way for you to be okay. There's a crucial difference between love and attachment, and understanding this difference can transform your relationships, including your relationship with your own anxiety. Attachment says, I need you to be okay, so I can be okay. I need you to behave in ways that make me comfortable. I need you to not change, not leave, not be different than what I want you to be. Attachment is about grasping, controlling, demanding that reality bend to your needs and fears. Love says, I wish for your well-being, whatever form that takes. I'll support you in becoming who you need to become. I'll hold you with care, not with clinging. Love has space in it, breath, allowance for change, and growth, and difference. James loved his daughter. That never changed. But his attachment to being needed, to their old dynamic, to his role as essential protector, that had to be released. Not because love demanded it, but because clinging was causing him suffering and, if he was honest, was starting to suffocate her too. Imagine holding something precious in your hands. You can grip it tightly, squeezing your fingers around it, terrified you'll drop it. Your hands cramp, your arms tire. You can't do anything else because you're so focused on holding on. And often, ironically, the tight grip damages the very thing you're trying to protect. Or you can hold it with open palms, gently, carefully, but without squeezing. If it needs to go, it can go. If it stays, it rests lightly in your open hands. And your hands don't cramp, your arms don't tire, and you can actually appreciate what you're holding instead of just desperately clinging to it. This is what non-clinging looks like. Open palms, not clenched fists. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha taught about letting go, not as losing something, but as liberating yourself from the burden of constant holding. He said we carry heavy loads, desires, fears, ideas, identities, and we believe these loads are ours, that we can't put them down. But we can, and the lightness that comes from releasing even one heavy thing is extraordinary. Let's try this directly. Right now, notice your jaw. Is it clenched? Even slightly? Let it soften. Let your teeth part just a little. Feel the muscles around your jaw release. Now notice your shoulders. Are they up near your ears? Let them drop. Just an inch? Or even less. Feel the weight settling down, the tension releasing. This is letting go. This small release in your body right now, this is what the Buddha was pointing to, just on a larger scale. You can release your grip on how things should be, on what you think you need to be okay, on your demand for certainty and control. And here's how this applies directly to anxiety. You can stop fighting it. Stop demanding that it go away before you can live your life. Stop treating it as evidence that something is terribly wrong with you. Stop adding suffering to suffering by resisting what's already here. There was a woman named Lisa who'd been fighting her anxiety for years. Fighting was the only way she knew how to relate to it, trying to make it stop, suppressing it, being angry at herself for feeling it, seeing it as weakness, as failure, as something to overcome through sheer willpower. She was exhausted, and the anxiety wasn't getting better. If anything, it was getting worse because now she was anxious about being anxious, adding layers of resistance and judgment on top of the original discomfort. Then someone asked her, "What if you stopped fighting it? Just for one day? What if you let it be there?" At first, this sounded like giving up, like letting anxiety win. But she was so tired of fighting that she tried it. The next time anxiety arose, instead of immediately trying to make it go away, she said to it, "Okay, you're here. I don't like it, but you're here. I'm not going to fight you right now." And something remarkable happened. The anxiety was still there. She hadn't made it disappear, but it wasn't as overwhelming because she'd stopped adding the resistance to it. She'd stopped making it worse by fighting it. She'd opened her palms instead of clenching her fists. This is not resignation. It's not giving up or deciding to be miserable forever. It's recognizing the difference between pain and suffering, between what's happening and your relationship to what's happening. The anxiety arising, that's not always in your control. Your nervous system, your history, your biology, your circumstances, these create conditions for anxiety to arise. But your response to it, your relationship with it, the story you tell about it, that's where your freedom lives. You can stop needing certainty about the future, not because you've become enlightened and transcended all human needs, but because you've recognized that certainty is impossible, and your demand for it is creating more suffering than the uncertainty itself. You can stop needing to control every outcome, not because you've become passive or stopped caring, but because you've seen that control is largely an illusion, and your attempts to grasp it are exhausting you. You can stop needing your anxiety to disappear before you can do what matters to you. Not because you've overcome anxiety, but because you've realized you can feel anxious and still show up, still act, still live. This is letting go, releasing your grip on how things have to be. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to stop making things worse through your clinging. And here's what's beautiful and often surprising. When you let go, when you stop fighting, when you hold life with open palms instead of clenched fists, the things you were so afraid of losing often remain. They just rest more lightly. You can still love deeply, care profoundly, engage fully. You just do it without the desperate grasping that creates so much of your suffering. James learned to love his daughter without needing to control her choices or keep her close. Their relationship changed. It had to, but it didn't end. In fact, it deepened once he stopped clinging to what it used to be and allowed it to become what it is. Lisa learned to live with anxiety without needing it to go away. It still arises sometimes. She's human. She has a nervous system. She lives in an uncertain world. But it doesn't control her anymore because she's stopped fighting it, stopped identifying with it, stopped demanding that she be anxiety-free before she can be okay. And Catherine, watching the seasons turn from her window, learned that loss and renewal are part of the same cycle, that nothing gold can stay, but nothing is truly lost either. It just transforms, changes form, returns in a different way. The relief that comes with release is immediate and profound. You might feel it right now, even just reading these words, as some small part of you relaxes its grip, the shoulders dropping, the jaw softening, the tight grip on how things should be loosening just slightly. You don't have to hold it all together, all the time. You don't have to know what's going to happen. You don't have to fix yourself or figure everything out before you can rest. You can let go, just for this moment, of all the heavy things you've been carrying. And in that letting go, you might discover what the Buddha discovered, that the freedom you've been seeking isn't in controlling everything or making anxiety disappear. It's in releasing your grip on the need for control itself. It's in the spaciousness that opens when you stop grasping at permanence and instead flow with the changing nature of all things. Now let's explore the mind that's been doing all this holding, all this grasping, all this desperate attempt to freeze the ever-changing river of experience. There was a woman named Rachel who'd been having the same intrusive thought for months. Every time she drove across a bridge, her mind would whisper, "What if you swerve? What if you lose control? What if you drive off the edge?" At first, she fought these thoughts with everything she had. She'd argue with them, "I would never do that. I'm a safe driver. That's ridiculous." She'd try to replace them with positive affirmations. "I am calm and in control." She'd white-knuckle the steering wheel and force herself to think about something else, anything else. But the thoughts kept coming, and worse, they seemed to be getting stronger, more frequent, more distressing. She started avoiding bridges, taking longer routes, arranging her life around these terrifying thoughts that she couldn't make stop. Then she learned something that changed everything. She didn't have to fight the thoughts at all. She could just notice them. This is the practice the Buddha called sati, mindfulness, or more accurately, aware remembering, clear knowing, the ability to witness what's happening without being swept away by it. Mindfulness is not what many people think it is. It's not forcing yourself to be positive or pretending difficult thoughts aren't there. It's not suppressing emotions or becoming some kind of unflappable Zen master who never gets upset. It's not about being calm, though sometimes calm arises as a result. Mindfulness is simply this: knowing what's happening while it's happening without getting lost in it. Think of it this way: you are the vast sky. Anxiety, thoughts, emotions, these are weather passing through. Sometimes the weather is beautiful, clear blue, warm sun, gentle breeze. Sometimes the weather is stormy, dark clouds, thunder, lightning, torrential rain. But the sky itself isn't damaged by the weather. It holds it all, allows it all, and remains fundamentally spacious and clear. When you practice mindfulness, you're learning to rest as the sky rather than being tossed around by the weather. You're developing the capacity to witness anxiety, thoughts, sensations, without believing they are you, without needing them to be different, without being controlled by them. The next time Rachel had that intrusive thought while driving, she tried something new. Instead of fighting it, she noticed it. "There's that thought again," she said quietly to herself. "The what if you swerve thought. It's here." And something remarkable happened. The thought was still there. She hadn't made it disappear, but it had less power because she wasn't wrestling with it anymore. She was simply aware of it, the way you might be aware of a cloud passing overhead without needing to grab it or push it away. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha's foundational teaching on mindfulness, he begins with the simplest instruction: breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Not controlling the breath, not making it deeper or slower, not turning it into a technique to calm down, just knowing it, just being aware that breath is happening. This is the essence of mindfulness: clear, simple knowing. Let's practice this for just a moment. Right now, as you listen to these words, notice that thinking is happening. You don't have to change the thoughts, or judge them, or figure them out. Just notice. There are thoughts present. Maybe there's a thought about what you heard earlier in this teaching. Maybe there's a thought about something you need to do later. Maybe there's a thought judging this practice as silly, or wondering if it will work. Whatever thoughts are there, just notice them. And now notice this. You're noticing the thoughts. There's awareness happening. Something in you knows that thoughts are present. That knowing, that awareness, that's not a thought. That's you as the sky, witnessing the weather. This is the revolutionary shift that mindfulness makes possible. From I am anxious to I notice anxiety is present. Do you feel how different those two statements are? I am anxious means anxiety is your identity, your essence, your unchanging reality. I notice anxiety is present means anxiety is an experience you're having, a visitor in the house of your awareness, something that's here now but wasn't here an hour ago and won't be here forever. One of the most helpful tools in mindfulness practice is simple labeling. When you notice anxiety arising, you can quietly label what's happening. Worrying. This is worrying. When your mind goes to the past, you can label remembering. This is remembering. When it jumps to the future, planning. This is planning. The labels aren't meant to be rigid categories or a way to control your experience. They're gentle touchstones that help you maintain awareness, that remind you this is a process happening, not who you are. Rachel started labeling her intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thought. That's an intrusive thought. Not with judgment, not bad thought or wrong thought, just a simple recognition of what was happening. And in that recognition, space opened up. The thought was still there, but she wasn't glued to it anymore. There was room to breathe, room to choose her response, room to keep driving safely while the thought did its thing and eventually passed. This creates choice where before there was only reaction. When you're lost in anxiety, when you believe you are the anxiety, there's no choice. There's only the anxiety controlling what you think, feel, and do. But when you can observe the anxiety, when there's even a small gap between you and it, suddenly there's space to respond rather than react. And here's the reassurance you might need right now. You don't have to be good at this. You don't have to maintain perfect awareness or never get lost in thoughts again. Mindfulness isn't about perfection. It's about the moment you wake up, the moment you remember, the moment you come back to awareness. That moment, that's the practice. That's all you need. Just notice what's here. The anxious thought, the tight chest, the worried mind. Notice it the way you'd notice rain on the window. It's happening, it's real, and you can be aware of it without being swept away by it. You are the sky. The anxiety is weather, and the sky has room for all weather. There was a chef named Marcus who worked in a high-end restaurant where everything moved fast, orders firing constantly, tickets piling up, customers expecting perfection, managers watching every move. His anxiety lived in his chest like a tight fist, especially during the dinner rush, when he could barely breathe between tasks. One evening, overwhelmed and on the verge of a panic attack, he forced himself to focus on just one thing: chopping an onion. Not the 50 other things that needed to happen, not the tickets waiting, not the fear of falling behind. Just this onion, this knife, this cutting board. He noticed the weight of the knife in his hand, the smell of the onion as the blade cut through, the sound of the knife hitting the board. Tap, tap, tap. The way each slice fell away from the others, translucent layers catching the light. For those 2 minutes of chopping, the anxiety was still there in the background, but he wasn't drowning in it anymore, because his attention was here, on this simple, ordinary task. And when he finished the onion and moved to the next task, he brought that same quality of attention with him. This breath, this step, this moment. This is what the Buddha meant by present moment awareness, bringing your full attention to what's actually happening right now, rather than being lost in stories about the past or fears about the future. Anxiety, by its very nature, lives in the future. It's your mind time-traveling ahead, imagining what could go wrong, preparing for disasters that haven't happened and might never happen. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if something terrible happens? All future, all imagined, all taking you away from the only moment you actually have, this one. Peace lives in now. Not because the present moment is always pleasant, it's not. But because right now, in this actual moment, you can only deal with what's actually here, not with the infinite possible futures your mind can generate. Marcus discovered something profound in those 2 minutes of chopping an onion. There's magic in the ordinary when you bring your full attention to it. Washing dishes can become a meditation when you feel the warm water on your hands. Notice the soap bubbles forming and popping. Hear the quiet sound of plates being cleaned. Walking can become a refuge when you feel each foot touching the ground. Sense the movement of your body through space. Notice the air on your skin. Even breathing, something you do 20,000 times a day without thinking, becomes extraordinary when you bring awareness to it. Let's practice this together for just a moment. Bring your attention to your senses right now, to what's actually present, rather than what you're thinking about. What do you hear? Maybe there's the sound of these words. Maybe there's traffic outside, or silence, or the hum of a refrigerator, or birds, or wind. You don't need to analyze what you hear, or label it beyond simple recognition. Just let hearing happen and be aware of it. What physical sensations are present? Maybe there's the feeling of your body making contact with whatever you're sitting or lying on. Maybe there's warmth or coolness on your skin. Maybe there's tension somewhere, or ease somewhere else. You don't need to change anything. Just notice what's already here. This is present moment awareness. Nothing fancy, nothing mystical, nothing you don't already know how to do. Just being here, in your actual experience, rather than lost in the movie playing in your head about past or future. And here's what makes this so powerful. Presence is always available. No matter where you are, no matter what's happening, no matter how anxious or overwhelmed you feel, you can always come back to this breath, this step, this moment. It's like building a muscle. The first time you try to be present, your mind might wander every few seconds. That's not failure. That's normal. The practice isn't staying present forever. The practice is noticing you've wandered and coming back. Again and again and again, coming back. Every time you notice you've drifted into worry about tomorrow, and you bring your attention back to the feeling of your feet on the floor, that's success. Every time you catch yourself replaying yesterday's conversation and you return to the breath, that's the practice working. The wandering isn't the problem. The wandering is the opportunity to practice returning. The Buddha taught this as part of his instructions for daily life. Do one thing at a time with full attention. When you walk, just walk. When you eat, just eat. When you wash your hands, just wash your hands. Not because multitasking is bad, or because you need to be perfectly present every moment, but because giving your full attention to what you're doing is a refuge, a rest, a return to sanity in a world that constantly pulls you in 1,000 directions. There was a parent named Sophia who felt constantly overwhelmed by everything she had to do. Work deadlines, kids' schedules, household tasks, emails piling up, phone calls to return, decisions to make. Her mind was always 3 steps ahead, trying to juggle it all, and she felt like she was failing at everything because she could never give anything her full attention. Then she tried something simple. When she was with her daughter at bedtime, she was just with her daughter. Not checking her phone, not mentally running through tomorrow's to-do list, not thinking about work, just reading the story, tucking in the covers, listening to the small voice, sharing the day's events. 10 minutes of full presence. And both Sophia and her daughter felt the difference. The time became nourishing rather than stressful, connecting rather than fragmenting. And paradoxically, by slowing down and being fully present for those 10 minutes, Sophia felt less overwhelmed overall, because she'd touched something real, something that fed her rather than depleting her. The cumulative effect of these small moments is profound. You don't need to be present for hours a day. Minutes of genuine presence add up to a calmer nervous system, a quieter mind, a life that feels more lived rather than just survived. One conscious breath while waiting at a red light. 30 seconds of really tasting your morning coffee instead of drinking it while doing 3 other things. 2 minutes of feeling water on your hands while washing dishes. These aren't wasted time. They're medicine. They're practice. They're moments of sanity in an often insane world. And every time you notice you've been lost in anxious thoughts, and you return to presence, to breath, to sensation, to this moment, that's not failure. That's exactly the practice. That noticing, that returning, that's where the transformation happens. You don't have to get this right. You just have to keep returning. Keep coming back to now. Keep touching this breath, this step, this moment of actual lived experience, rather than imagined future catastrophe. And in that returning, in that presence, you'll find what you've been looking for, not the absence of anxiety, but the capacity to be with what is, without being overwhelmed by it. There was a meditator named Daniel who had a breakthrough during a retreat. He'd been sitting with intense anxiety for days, watching it rise and fall, trying to be mindful of it, and one morning a question arose that changed everything. Whose anxiety is this? Not in a detached philosophical way, but as a genuine inquiry. Where exactly was this anxiety? Who was experiencing it? What was the I that claimed to have this anxiety? This question leads directly to one of the Buddha's most profound and liberating teachings: anatta, non-self. This is also the most confusing teaching for many people, so let's be very clear about what it means and what it doesn't mean. Anatta doesn't mean you don't exist. You're clearly here, reading or listening, having experiences, making choices. It doesn't mean you're nobody or nothing, or that you should stop caring about your life or other people. That's a misunderstanding that's caused a lot of confusion over the centuries. What anatta means is this: there's no fixed, permanent, separate, unchanging self at your core. What you call I or me is actually a collection of changing processes happening together: body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, but there's no solid, unchanging thing that all of these belong to. Think about it this way: where exactly is yourself? Is it in your body? But your body is constantly changing. Different cells, different atoms, different from moment to moment. Is it in your thoughts? But thoughts come and go, arise and pass, change constantly. Is it in your personality, your memories, your preferences? But all of these change over time too. So what exactly is this unchanging you that supposedly exists at the center of all this? The Buddha taught about the 5 aggregates, 5 categories of experience, that together create the sense of being a person, but none of which is actually a self. First is form, rupa, your physical body. This is where anxiety often shows up most dramatically: the racing heart, the tight chest, the shallow breathing, the tense shoulders. But the body is constantly changing, constantly in flux. The body you had 10 years ago is not the body you have now. The body you have now is not the body you'll have in 10 years. So which body is the real you? Second is Vedana, feeling tone. Not emotions exactly, but the basic quality of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral that colors every experience. The anxiety itself has an unpleasant feeling tone. That's partly what makes it anxiety rather than excitement. But these feeling tones are constantly changing too, moment to moment, experience to experience. Third is sana, perception or recognition. This is how you label and categorize experience, how you recognize an anxious sensation as anxiety, how you interpret what's happening based on past experience and cultural conditioning. But your perceptions are shaped by countless factors, and they change as you change. Fourth is sankhara, mental formations. This is where anxiety lives as a pattern in your mind. Thoughts, emotions, impulses, reactions, habitual patterns, all the complex activities of mind that arise from causes and conditions that come and go, that aren't permanent or fixed, but are constantly being constructed and reconstructed. And fifth is vijnana, consciousness, the knowing quality that's aware of all the other aggregates. But even consciousness changes depending on what it's conscious of, what state your body is in, whether you're tired or alert, focused or scattered. So which of these five is you? The body that's changing, the feelings that shift, the perceptions that are conditioned, the mental formations that arise and pass, the consciousness that changes with every new object. In the Anattalakkhana Sutta, the Buddha's teaching on non-self, he goes through each aggregate and says, form is not self, feeling is not self, perception is not self, mental formations are not self, consciousness is not self. And then he asks, if these things were yourself, would you have such little control over them? Could you command your body never to age or get sick? Could you demand that only pleasant feelings arise and unpleasant ones never appear? Could you control your thoughts completely? Obviously not. So how can they be you if you don't control them? Now here's how this teaching relates directly to anxiety. Anxiety is a mental formation, one of the sankharas. It's a conditioned pattern arising from causes, your biology, your history, your current circumstances, countless factors coming together to create this experience called anxiety. But it's not you. It's not your identity. It's not your essence. It's a visitor in the house of your awareness, a weather pattern passing through the sky of your being, a temporary configuration of mental and physical processes that will change because everything changes. There was a man named James who spent years saying, I am anxious, as if anxiety was his fundamental nature, his unchanging identity. Then he learned to say instead, I have anxiety, or even more accurately, anxiety is present. Do you feel the difference? I am anxious makes anxiety your identity. I have anxiety creates a little distance. You have it, like you have a headache or a cold, but you're not it. Anxiety is present, creates even more space. It's a condition arising, here for now, not permanent, not you. This isn't just playing with words. This is recognizing reality more clearly. You are not your anxiety any more than the sky is the storm passing through it. Right now, notice this. Who is aware of these words? Who is listening or reading? There's an awareness present, isn't there? That awareness, that clear, open, knowing quality is closer to your true nature than any anxiety, any thought, any emotion could ever be. That awareness isn't anxious. It simply is. It watches anxiety arise like watching clouds form. It witnesses anxiety pass, like watching clouds dissolve, and it remains spacious and clear, regardless of what weather moves through it. This teaching frees you from being defined by your mental states. You're not an anxious person. You're a person who sometimes experiences anxiety. You're not broken or flawed. You're a human being with a nervous system responding to conditions. You're not your thoughts, your emotions, your patterns. You're the awareness in which all of these arise and pass. And in seeing this clearly, repeatedly, with patience and compassion, the identification with anxiety begins to loosen. Not because you've gotten rid of anxiety or transcended it, but because you've seen through the illusion that it defines you. You are the vast sky. Anxiety is weather, and the sky is never damaged by any weather, no matter how fierce the storm. Now let's take these insights, this understanding of mindfulness, presence, and non-self, and bring them into actual practice, into the moments when anxiety arises and you need tools that work. There was an executive who ran a company with hundreds of employees, managed million-dollar deals, made rapid-fire decisions all day long. But when someone suggested he try meditation, he couldn't sit still for 30 seconds. He'd sit down, close his eyes, and immediately his mind would flood with everything he needed to do: emails waiting, meetings to prepare for, problems to solve. His leg would start bouncing. His fingers would drum on his knee. He'd open his eyes after what felt like an eternity and check his watch. 20 seconds had passed. "I can't do this," he said. "My mind is too active. Meditation isn't for people like me." But here's what he didn't understand. Meditation isn't about having a calm mind. It's about seeing your mind clearly, exactly as it is, without needing it to be different. Let's demystify meditation right now. You don't need incense or robes or a special cushion, or to sit in a perfect lotus position. You don't need to achieve some transcendent state, or stop thinking entirely, or develop mystical powers. You don't need to become someone different than who you are. Meditation is simply training your attention. That's it. Learning to direct your awareness where you want it, rather than being pulled in every direction by whatever thought or sensation happens to arise. The Buddha taught a specific practice called anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, and it's described in detail in the Anapanasati Sutta. The full practice has 16 steps, moving through different levels of refinement and insight. But we're going to start with just one step, the foundation, knowing that you're breathing. Your breath is the perfect anchor for attention. Why? Because it's always available. You can't forget your breath at home or lose it between the couch cushions. It's always present, always happening, as long as you're alive. Your breath is also always changing. Every inhale is slightly different. every exhale unique. This means you can't put it on autopilot. You have to stay present with it, moment by moment, to really know it. And your breath is neutral. It's not pleasant or unpleasant inherently. It just is. This makes it a stable place to rest attention without getting caught up in craving or aversion. Let's practice together for just a couple of minutes. And remember, there's no way to do this wrong. The only way to fail at meditation is not to try. Find a comfortable position, whatever that means for you right now. You can sit, lie down, stand, whatever allows you to be alert but relaxed. Bring your attention to your breath, wherever you feel it most clearly. Maybe at your nostrils, feeling the air move in and out. Maybe at your chest, feeling it rise and fall. Maybe at your belly, feeling it expand and soften. There's no right place. Just notice where you feel breath most easily. Now, no need to control your breath or make it deeper or slower or different in any way. Just know it as it is. Breathing in, know you're breathing in. Breathing out, know you're breathing out. That's the whole instruction. Simple, but not easy. Because within about 5 seconds, your mind will probably wander. You'll start thinking about what you need to do later, or what someone said earlier, or whether you're doing this right, or 1,000 other things. That's not failure. That's completely normal. The wandering mind isn't the problem. The wandering mind is the opportunity to practice. When you notice your mind has wandered, and this is the key moment, gently, kindly, without judgment, bring your attention back to the breath. Breathing in, knowing you're breathing in. Breathing out, knowing you're breathing out. The mind wanders again? Of course it does. Bring it back again. This isn't failure. This returning, again and again, this is the practice. This is meditation working. If this feels hard or boring or pointless, that's okay. The executive felt all of those things. His mind told him this was a waste of time, that he should be doing something productive, that he wasn't cut out for this. Those are just thoughts. Notice them and return to the breath. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. Even when it doesn't feel like anything special is happening, you're training your nervous system to settle. The science is clear on this. When you breathe consciously, especially when you lengthen your exhales, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response that counters the fight or flight activation of anxiety. Even 3 minutes of conscious breathing changes your physiology. Heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, stress hormones decrease, the prefrontal cortex comes back online so you can think clearly instead of just react. There was someone in the middle of a panic attack, heart racing, chest tight, convinced Something terrible was about to happen. Everything in them wanted to fight the panic, run from it, make it stop. But they remembered 3 breaths, just 3 conscious breaths. Not trying to make the panic go away, just meeting this moment with awareness. 1 breath, feeling air move in, feeling air move out. The panic was still there, but they were present with it rather than lost in it. 2 breaths. The intensity was still high, but something had shifted. There was a tiny bit of space between them and the panic, a small witnessing awareness. 3 breaths. The panic was beginning to peak, and they knew from experience it would start to subside soon. They didn't have to fight it or fear it. They just had to breathe through it. This is the power of the breath as medicine. It's always available, and it works, even when nothing else does. Different moments call for different breath practices. When anxiety is activating your system, heart racing, thoughts speeding up, long exhales help. Breathe in for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 6 or 8. The longer exhale signals safety to your nervous system. When your mind is very scattered, jumping from thought to thought, counting breaths helps. Count each exhale from 1 to 10, then start over. When you lose count, which you will, just start again at 1. This gives your mind something to do, a simple task to anchor attention. When you just want to be present, natural breath is enough. No counting, no controlling, no technique. Just knowing, breathing in, breathing out, this moment, exactly as it is. If you want to build a daily practice, start small. 5 minutes. Not an hour, not even 20 minutes. Just 5 minutes where you sit with your breath and nothing else matters. The executive started with 5 minutes every morning. The first week was torture. Every second felt like an hour. His mind rebelled. He was sure he was doing it wrong. The second week was slightly easier, though he still hated most of it. By the third week, something had shifted. He noticed he was less reactive during the day, more able to pause before responding, more aware of his own mental states. He wasn't calm all the time. That's not what meditation does. But he had more space, more choice, more capacity to be with difficulty without being overwhelmed by it. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha says, "Make mindfulness of breathing your dwelling place." Not an occasional technique you use when things get really bad, but your home, the place you return to again and again. And here's the final reassurance you might need. You don't have to be good at meditating. There's no such thing as being good at it, actually. You just have to do it. Show up, sit down, pay attention to your breath. Notice when your mind wanders, bring it back. That's enough. That's the practice. That's medicine. There was a teacher who carried her stress in her shoulders. By the end of each day, the tension was so tight it gave her headaches, made it hard to turn her neck, radiated down her back. She'd try to relax, hot baths, massage, stretching, and it would help temporarily, but the tension always returned because she never noticed it building until it was already severe. Then she learned something simple but transformative. She could check in with her body throughout the day, not waiting until the tension was unbearable, but noticing the early signs, the first tightening, the subtle signals her body was sending before they became screams. This is Kayagata Sati, mindfulness of the body, and it's one of the Buddha's core teachings from the Satipatthana Sutta. The instruction is beautifully simple. Know the body as body. Not make the body relaxed or fix the body or change the body. Just know it. Be aware of it. Notice what's actually happening in your physical form right now. This matters for anxiety, because anxiety doesn't just live in your thoughts. It lives in your jaw clenched tight, your shoulders hiked up toward your ears, your stomach twisted in knots, your chest constricted, your heart racing, your breath shallow and high. Your body is an early warning system. It knows anxiety is building before your conscious mind recognizes it. The tension starts creeping in. The breathing gets shallower. The muscles begin to brace. All of this happens before the full-blown anxious thoughts arrive. If you learn to read your body's signals, you can work with anxiety in its early stages, rather than waiting until it's overwhelming. The teacher started doing what she called shoulder checks throughout her day. Every hour, she'd pause and notice, where are my shoulders right now? Are they tight? Are they up near my ears? And if they were, she'd take one breath and let them drop, releasing the tension before it accumulated into pain. This isn't complicated, but it requires actually paying attention to your body rather than just living in your head. Let's do a brief exploration together right now. This is sometimes called a body scan, but think of it less as a technique and more as a conversation with yourself, a gentle inquiry into what's actually present. Start with your feet. You don't have to move them or do anything, just notice them. Can you feel your feet right now? Maybe there's warmth or coolness. Maybe pressure where they touch the floor or bed. Maybe tingling or numbness, or nothing in particular. You're not trying to force any particular sensation. You're just noticing what's already there. Move your attention slowly up through your legs, your calves, your knees, your thighs. Is there tightness anywhere? Is there ease? You're not judging what you find, not trying to relax or change anything yet. Just noticing, just knowing the body as body. Bring awareness to your belly and lower back. This is where anxiety often lives, deep in the gut, in the tightening around the core. Can you feel your belly right now? Is it tight or soft? Is your breathing reaching down here, or is it stuck up high in your chest? Notice your chest and upper back, your heart, the rise and fall of breath, or the holding of breath. This is where panic often manifests most intensely. The tight band around the chest, the racing heart, the feeling of not being able to get enough air. Bring attention to your shoulders and neck. This is where many people carry their stress. Are your shoulders hunched up? Is your neck tight? Just notice, without immediately trying to fix it. First, know what's there. And finally, notice your jaw, your face, your forehead. Is your jaw clenched? Are you furrowing your brow? Are you holding tension in your face without even realizing it? Now that you've scanned through, where did you find tightness? Where did you find ease? And here's the important part. Even just noticing, even just bringing awareness to these places, often allows some release to happen naturally. Not because you forced it, but because awareness itself is healing. The Buddha taught about the 4 postures: walking, standing, sitting, lying down. He said to bring mindfulness to all of them, to know your body in each position, to be aware of movement and stillness. This means you can practice body awareness anytime, anywhere. You don't need to set aside special time for meditation. You can bring mindfulness to everyday movement. There was someone who dealt with intense anxiety who took up running, not to escape the anxiety, but to be with it differently. Instead of running away from feelings, they ran with them. They'd notice their feet striking the ground, one after the other, the rhythm of their breath syncing with their steps, the way their body moved through space, the sweat forming, the muscles working, the heart pumping. And yes, sometimes anxiety was there too, but it was just one sensation among many, not the whole experience. Running became a moving meditation, a way to be embodied rather than lost in anxious thoughts, a practice of returning to physical sensation when the mind tried to spiral into worry about the future. The Buddha also taught about the 32 parts of the body, not to be morbid or to reject the body, but to see it clearly, to understand it as a natural process rather than something to fear or control. For our purposes, the key insight is this: your body is a constantly changing collection of processes, not a solid, unchanging thing. Breath moving in and out, heart beating, blood flowing, digestion happening, cells being born and dying. All of this is natural. All of this is impermanent. All of this is not self in the deepest sense. When anxiety makes your heart race, you can know this is the heart responding to perceived threat. It's doing what it evolved to do. You're not broken. You're having a physiological response, and it will change because everything changes. Grounding in physical reality interrupts mental spirals. When your mind is spinning with worried thoughts, what if this? What if that? Catastrophizing about the future, bringing attention to your body pulls you back to what's actually happening right now. Here's a practical tip for moments of acute anxiety. Touch something with texture and feel it fully. Run your fingers over fabric. Hold something with weight. Feel the temperature of an object in your hand. Let all your attention go into the sensation of touching, the physical reality of this object against your skin. This interrupts the thought spiral and grounds you in present moment sensation. The teacher learned to notice the first signs of shoulder tension and work with it early. But she also learned something deeper. Her body wasn't the enemy. It wasn't betraying her or failing her. It was trying to protect her, responding to stress the only way it knew how, holding tension because it thought that would help her survive. Your body has been working so hard for you. It's been carrying your anxiety in its tissues, holding your stress in its muscles, trying to keep you safe, even when there's no actual danger. It deserves compassion, not criticism. When you notice tension, you can meet it with kindness. Thank you, body, for trying to protect me. I'm safe right now. You can relax. Not commanding or forcing, just offering the information. It's okay to soften now. This is Kaya Gata Sati, as a living practice, knowing your body with awareness and compassion, working with it rather than against it, recognizing its signals as information rather than as problems to fix, befriending the body that's been holding so much for so long. Your body is not the enemy. It's been working hard for you, doing its best to keep you safe in a world that often feels threatening. And now, through mindfulness, through gentle attention, through compassionate awareness, you can help it learn that it's okay to rest, okay to release, okay to be at ease. There was a perfectionist who held herself to impossible standards. Every mistake was catastrophic. Every flaw was evidence of fundamental inadequacy. Every moment of struggle meant she wasn't trying hard enough. She spoke to herself in ways she would never speak to anyone else. You're so stupid. How could you mess that up? Everyone else has it together. What's wrong with you? The inner voice was relentless, cruel, exhausting. And she believed this harshness was necessary. That if she let up on herself even slightly, she'd become lazy, mediocre, unworthy. That the criticism was what kept her functional, what pushed her forward, what prevented total collapse. But the truth was the opposite. The harsh self-criticism was making her anxiety worse, not better. It was adding suffering on top of suffering, making every difficulty unbearable, because she was fighting herself at the same time she was fighting the situation. Then someone asked her a question that cracked something open. Would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself? She started to cry because the answer was obvious. No, never. She would never be so cruel to someone she cared about. So why was it acceptable to be this cruel to herself? We live in a culture that teaches harshness toward ourselves as virtue. We're told that self-criticism keeps us humble, that beating ourselves up motivates improvement, that being hard on ourselves is responsible and mature, while being kind to ourselves is self-indulgent and weak. But the Buddha taught something radically different. He taught that genuine transformation begins with kindness, and that kindness must start with yourself. This is the practice of metta bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness, and contrary to popular belief, it doesn't begin with sending love to all beings everywhere. It begins at home, with your own heart, with the one person you often treat the worst, yourself. In the Karaniya Metta Sutta, one of the Buddha's most beautiful teachings, he describes the quality of loving kindness and says explicitly that it begins with your own welfare. Not in a selfish way, but as a foundation. You can't genuinely wish others well if you're at war with yourself. The Buddha said, in essence, be your own best friend. Not your own worst critic, not your own harshest judge, but your own best friend, the one who sees your struggles clearly, but responds with compassion rather than contempt. The traditional metta practice uses 4 phrases, wishes for well-being, that we offer first to ourselves and then to others. They're simple but profound, and they directly address the ways anxiety makes us feel unsafe, agitated, physically unwell, and struggling. The first phrase is, "May I be free from danger." This addresses the fundamental fear that underlies so much anxiety, the sense of threat, the feeling that something bad is about to happen, the inability to feel safe, even when you objectively are. The second is, "May I have mental happiness," or peace, or calm, whatever word resonates with you. This addresses the suffering of the anxious mind itself, the wish for inner tranquility, for the racing thoughts to settle, for the worry to ease. The third is, "May I have physical happiness," or health, or well-being. This addresses the body's suffering, the tension, the pain, the exhaustion of carrying anxiety in your muscles and bones. And the fourth is, "May I live with ease." This is perhaps the most encompassing, the wish for life to feel less like a constant struggle, less like you're pushing a boulder uphill every moment, more like you can breathe and move through your days without everything being so hard. Let's practice this together for a couple of minutes. And I want to say up front, this might feel awkward, or fake, or uncomfortable at first. That's completely normal. We're not used to offering ourselves kindness, so it can feel foreign, even wrong. But stay with it anyway. Find a comfortable position. You might want to place one hand on your heart, feeling the warmth and gentle pressure there. This physical gesture of self-soothing activates the care system in your brain, the same neural pathways that light up when you comfort a child or hug a friend. Now, silently, say these phrases to yourself. Let them settle into your body, not just your mind. Notice how it feels to wish yourself well. May I be free from danger. May I have mental happiness. May I have physical happiness. May I live with ease. If resistance arises, and it probably will, that's okay. Notice the resistance. This feels fake. I don't deserve this. This is stupid. Those are just thoughts. More weather passing through. Keep saying the phrases anyway. May I be free from danger. May I have mental happiness. May I have physical happiness. May I live with ease. You can continue this practice on your own, repeating the phrases for as long as feels helpful. Some days they'll feel genuine and moving. Some days they'll feel mechanical and hollow. Both are fine. You're planting seeds, and seeds need time to grow. There was a woman who cried the first time she truly wished herself well. Not tears of sadness, but of relief, of something long frozen, beginning to thaw. She realized she'd been waiting her whole life for someone else to give her permission to be kind to herself, and that permission was never going to come from outside. She had to give it to herself. Think about the inner voices in your mind. There's the inner critic, harsh, demanding, never satisfied, always finding fault. And there's the potential for an inner friend, gentle, supportive, acknowledging difficulty while offering encouragement. Here's what's interesting. Both of these voices think they're helping you. The critic believes that by being harsh, by pointing out every flaw and mistake, it's protecting you from failure and shame. It's trying to keep you safe through vigilance and self-correction. It's just doing it badly, causing more harm than help. The inner friend does the same thing, tries to keep you safe and help you grow, but it does it through support rather than attack, through compassion rather than cruelty. And research shows this actually works better. When anxiety spikes, when you're in the middle of struggle, here are some phrases you can offer yourself instead of the usual self-criticism. This is really hard right now. Just acknowledging the difficulty without adding judgment on top of it. Not, this shouldn't be hard, or I should be handling this better. Just the simple truth. This is hard. I'm doing the best I can. Even if your best doesn't feel like enough, even if you're struggling and scared and barely holding on, you're here, you're trying, that counts. May I be kind to myself in this moment. Not later when you've earned it, not after you've fixed everything, but right now, in the middle of the mess, in the thick of anxiety. This is when you need kindness most. In the Metta Sutta, the Buddha offers this image. Just as a mother would protect her only child with her life, Even so, let one cultivate a boundless heart toward all beings. That's the quality of care we're learning to extend to ourselves. Fierce, protective, unconditional. Not the indulgent kind of care that avoids all discomfort or responsibility. Self-compassion is different from self-indulgence. Self-indulgence says, I don't want to feel bad, so I'll avoid everything difficult and do only what feels good. Self-compassion says, this is difficult and I'm struggling, and I deserve support and kindness while I face this. Self-compassion doesn't mean lowering your standards or giving up on growth. It means approaching your struggles and imperfections with understanding rather than contempt, with support rather than attack. And the research is clear. Self-compassion actually increases resilience, motivation, and the ability to learn from mistakes. People who are kind to themselves are more likely to try again after failure, more able to acknowledge weaknesses without being devastated by them, more capable of genuine growth because they're not paralyzed by shame. Here's a practical application you can use anytime. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the warmth, the gentle pressure, the rise and fall of your breath beneath your palm. This simple gesture activates self-soothing, reminds your body that you're safe, offers yourself the physical comfort you might offer a frightened child. And then say something kind, out loud or silently, whatever feels right. It's okay. I'm here. You're not alone. The perfectionist who'd been so harsh with herself learned to do this when anxiety struck. Instead of the usual barrage of criticism, she'd place a hand on her heart and say, "This is hard, and I'm doing my best." It felt absurd at first, almost childish, but slowly, over time, something shifted. The anxiety didn't disappear, but her relationship to herself changed. She stopped being at war with her own struggles. You deserve your own tenderness. Not someday when you've earned it, by being perfect, or achieving enough, or finally getting your act together. Right now, exactly as you are, with all your struggles and imperfections and anxious moments. You've always deserved it. You just didn't know you were allowed to give it to yourself. There was someone who went to a support group for anxiety, terrified to share, convinced their struggles were uniquely shameful and everyone else had it more together. They finally worked up the courage to speak. "I have panic attacks at the grocery store. I can't drive on highways anymore. I check my door locks compulsively. I'm a mess." And then something remarkable happened. Person after person responded, "Me too." That's exactly what I experience. I thought I was the only one. The relief was overwhelming. Not because misery loves company, but because isolation had been adding a whole extra layer of suffering to the anxiety itself. The belief, I'm uniquely broken, something is fundamentally wrong with me, that isn't wrong with everyone else. That belief is itself a form of suffering, and it dissolves in the face of me too. Everyone struggles. Not just people with diagnosed anxiety disorders, but everyone. The monks practicing meditation struggle with restless minds. Teachers struggle with doubt. Even the Buddha's own disciples struggled, got anxious, felt overwhelmed, made mistakes. Being human means struggling sometimes. That's not failure. That's the human condition. The Buddha taught extensively about dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness, the pervasive difficulty of being alive in a changing, uncertain world. This wasn't pessimism. It was recognizing that struggle is universal, not personal. All beings experience this. You're not defective for finding life difficult sometimes. But we live in a culture of comparison and performance, where everyone presents their highlight reel while hiding their struggles. Social media shows you everyone's vacation photos and career achievements, not their 3 a.m. anxiety or the days they can barely get out of bed. So you compare your messy reality to everyone else's curated image and conclude you're uniquely failing. This isolation amplifies suffering exponentially. When you believe only I am this broken, anxiety becomes not just uncomfortable but shameful, proof of inadequacy, something to hide at all costs. The hiding itself requires enormous energy, creating more stress, more exhaustion, more anxiety about the anxiety. But the truth is, everyone you see is fighting a battle you know nothing about. The person who looks perfectly composed might be having a panic attack internally. The one who seems to have it all together might be barely holding on. The confident facade might be covering the same fears you have. Anxiety thrives in secrecy and shame. It tells you, don't tell anyone. They won't understand. They'll think you're weak. And as long as you believe that, as long as you hide and isolate, the anxiety has more power. There was someone who had panic attacks for years without telling anyone, not even his wife. He'd make excuses to leave situations, avoid places that might trigger panic, manage the whole thing alone because he was terrified of being seen as weak or broken. The night he finally told her, shaking and ashamed, she held him and said, "I know. I could tell something was wrong. I'm so glad you told me. You don't have to carry this alone anymore." And something lifted. Not the anxiety itself, that didn't magically disappear, but the isolation, the shame, the exhausting effort of hiding. He had an ally now, someone who understood, someone who could help. Today, there are more ways than ever to find your people, to experience that me too recognition. Online communities where people share their struggles openly. Support groups, both in person and virtual. Meditation circles and practice communities. Sanghas in the Buddhist tradition, where people come together not to be perfect, but to practice together, to support each other's path. We'll explore Sangha more deeply later, but for now, understand this. You're not meant to do this alone. The Buddha himself emphasized community as essential, not optional. We need each other, not just for practical support, but for the fundamental recognition that we're all in this together. It takes courage to be seen in your struggle. To say, "I'm not okay right now," when everyone else seems to be performing okayness. To admit vulnerability when strength is what's expected. But that courage opens the door to genuine connection, to the relief of shared humanity, to the recognition that you're not uniquely flawed, you're human. And recognizing shared humanity reduces comparison and competition. When you realize everyone struggles, you stop measuring yourself against impossible standards. Stop feeling like you need to prove your worth through perfection. Stop seeing others' struggles as threatening or your own as shameful. Right now, as you listen to this, you're connected with millions of others who have sought help for anxiety, who have felt this same fear and exhaustion and desperate hope for relief. You're not alone in this moment. You've never been alone, even when it felt that way. And here's a practice you can begin today. When you hear someone else share their pain or struggle, respond with, "Me too," if not out loud, then in your heart. Not to make it about you, but to recognize the shared thread of human difficulty, to acknowledge that their struggle touches something you understand. This builds the muscle of compassion and recognition that we're all walking each other home. These practices of self-compassion and recognizing common humanity aren't meant to stay on the meditation cushion. They're meant to come with you into your actual life, into the moments when anxiety spikes and you need something real to hold on to, into the daily struggles where you most need to remember you deserve kindness and you're not alone. There was a nurse who worked 12-hour shifts in an emergency room where every moment was urgent. Every decision mattered. Every sound could mean crisis. By the end of each shift, she was wrung out, exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. Her nervous system fried from constant activation. She'd come home, collapse, and repeat the cycle the next day, until she discovered that 5 minutes in the morning changed everything. Before her feet hit the floor, before checking her phone, before the day's demands began, she'd lie in bed and take 3 conscious breaths. Just 3, feeling the inhale, feeling the exhale, arriving in her body before the world pulled her away. Then she'd set an intention for the day. Not a goal or a to-do list, but a quality she wanted to bring to whatever arose. Today, may I meet difficulty with kindness. Or may I remember to pause before reacting. Simple, achievable, grounding. This is Samma Sankappa, right intention, one of the steps of the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha taught 3 kinds of wholesome intention that transform how we meet the day. First is renunciation, which doesn't mean rejecting life, but releasing the grasping, the constant reaching for more or different, the addiction to control. Second is goodwill, the wish for well-being for yourself and others, the choice to approach rather than attack. Third is harmlessness, the commitment to non-violence toward yourself and others, even in thought. The nurse would ask herself each morning, what do I need to let go of today? How can I bring kindness to my work? How can I be gentle with myself when things get hard? These questions set a tone that lasted through the chaos of her shifts. Mornings matter because they're the foundation. How you begin shapes what follows. If you start reactive, grabbing your phone, scrolling through problems, launching immediately into stress, your nervous system never gets a chance to ground itself. But if you start with even a few moments of intentional presence, you're building resilience before you need it. You don't need an hour of meditation. You need 3 minutes of presence. 3 conscious breaths while still in bed. 1 minute of gratitude, noticing 3 things you're grateful for before your feet touch the floor. 30 seconds of metta, wishing yourself well for the day ahead. There was a father who couldn't find time for formal meditation, but he found 2 minutes. Every day when he arrived home from work, before going inside to the demands of family life, he'd sit in his car for exactly 2 minutes. Just breathing, transitioning, letting work energy settle before becoming dad energy. Those 2 minutes made him more patient, more present, more able to meet his children with the attention they deserved. Micro practices fit real life. The conscious first sip of coffee, actually tasting it, instead of drinking while doing 3 other things. Stretching with awareness, feeling your body wake up rather than rushing through movements mechanically. Taking 1 full breath before checking your phone. The Buddha taught about starting the day mindfully, bringing awareness to the first moments of waking, the transition from sleep to activity. Not as a grand spiritual practice, but as simple acknowledgement. I'm alive. This is a new day. I have this moment. Put a reminder by your bed. A note that says, breathe, or begin with kindness. Something to interrupt the automatic reaching for your phone, the immediate diving into worry about everything you have to do. The cumulative effect is profound. Days that begin with intention tend to unfold differently than days that begin with reaction. Not perfectly, not without difficulty, but with more capacity to meet what comes rather than being overwhelmed by it. Once the day begins, most of us are swept along in its current tasks, deadlines, interactions, demands coming faster than we can process. This is when micro moments of peace become medicine. There was someone working in a law firm where every minute was billable, where taking a break felt impossible, where the pressure was relentless. They started taking what they called bathroom breaks, not actually needing the bathroom, but using those 2 minutes to reset. Close the stall door, take 3 conscious breaths, feel their feet on the ground, return to presence before diving back into the chaos. This is Samma Sati, right mindfulness, woven into ordinary moments. You don't need to retreat to a monastery. You need to use the moments you already have. Every red light is a bell of mindfulness. Instead of using those seconds to check your phone or fume about traffic, take 1 conscious breath. Feel your hands on the wheel. Notice the world around you. Let the red light be a gift of pause rather than an irritation. Every doorway is an opportunity to reset. Before entering a room, crossing a threshold, starting a new task, pause for just a breath. Arrive where you're going rather than bringing the energy of where you've been. Take 3 breath breaks between tasks. Finished an email? 3 breaths before the next one. Completed a phone call? 3 breaths before moving on. These tiny pauses prevent the buildup of accumulated stress, keep you from running on empty until you crash. Use technology as reminder rather than distraction. Set phone alarms for hourly check-ins. Are you breathing? Put sticky notes on your computer. Pause. One developer added comments throughout their code that just said, breathe. Reminders woven into the work itself. Practice mindful transitions. Before meetings, take 3 conscious breaths. Before meals, pause to notice you're about to eat rather than shoveling food while working. Before difficult conversations, ground in your body so you can respond rather than react. 10 seconds can shift your nervous system. That's not hyperbole. 10 seconds of dropping your shoulders, softening your jaw, taking a full breath. This activates the parasympathetic response, interrupts the stress cycle, brings you back to your body. Peace is built in seconds, not hours. You don't need extended meditation retreats to change your relationship with anxiety. You need moments scattered through your day where you remember to come home to yourself. Walking meditation can happen in hallways, not just on retreat. Feel each foot touch the ground as you move from one room to another. Notice the sensation of movement, the rhythm of steps, the body in space. Transform transit time into practice time. Eating meditation can be 1 bite, not the whole meal. 1 bite where you actually taste the food, feel the texture, notice the flavors instead of eating on autopilot while scrolling or working or worrying. Listening meditation transforms conversations. Instead of planning what you'll say next while someone speaks, actually listen. Be present with their words, their tone, their presence. This isn't just good practice. It's connection, the antidote to the isolation that feeds anxiety. The practice of pausing create space before reacting. Someone says something triggering? Pause. One breath. Then respond rather than react. This tiny gap is where freedom lives, where you stop being controlled by impulse and start making conscious choices. Start with just one practice today. Not all of them. One red light meditation, or one mindful bite of food, or one 3-breath break. Build slowly, sustainably, so this becomes part of how you live rather than another item on your overwhelming to-do list. But what about when anxiety hits hard, when you're not in a peaceful moment, but in crisis, when your heart is racing and your thoughts are spiraling and you need something right now? This is when the Buddha's teaching becomes most practical. There was someone who had a panic attack in a grocery store, heart pounding, chest tight, vision narrowing, convinced they were dying or going crazy. Everything in them wanted to run, to escape, to make this stop immediately. But they remembered the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha's teaching from the Satipatthana Sutta, designed for exactly these moments. And in 2 minutes, they moved through a process that transformed the experience. The 4 foundations aren't theory. They're emergency practice, tools for when you need them most. First foundation, Kayanupassana, contemplation of the body. When panic hit, they immediately grounded in physical sensation. Feet on floor, back against wall, hands gripping the shopping cart. Not trying to change anything, just anchoring in what was solid and real. They named the sensations heart racing, breath shallow, hands sweating. Naming creates distance, turns overwhelming sensation into observable phenomenon. Second foundation, Vedananupassana, contemplation of feeling tone. They noticed, this experience is unpleasant. Not I'm bad, not something's wrong with me, just unpleasant feeling tone present. This removed the layer of judgment that often makes panic unbearable. Third foundation, Cittanupassana, contemplation of mind states. They recognized anxious mind present, panic mind present. Not I am panicking, but panic is present in the mind. This is the shift from identification to observation, from being the storm to being the sky watching the storm. Fourth foundation, Dhammanupassana, contemplation of mental phenomena. They saw restlessness and worry, the 5th hindrance, operating in real time. They remembered, this is conditioned, not permanent. This arose from causes, and it will pass when conditions change. Already, just in recognizing this, something was shifting. 2 minutes. The panic was still there, but they weren't fighting it anymore. They'd moved through the 4 foundations, and while the panic hadn't disappeared, they weren't drowning in it. They could breathe, they could function, They could even finish their shopping. This is different from coping strategies that just try to suppress symptoms. This is transformation, changing your relationship to the experience rather than trying to force the experience to change. You can't stop the wave, but you can learn to surf it. The wave of panic, of anxiety, of difficult emotion, it's going to come. Fighting it just exhausts you and often makes it worse. But meeting it with awareness, moving through these 4 foundations, you stay upright while the wave moves through. There's a modern acronym that captures this well. RAIN. Recognize what's happening. Allow it to be here, without fighting. Investigate with curiosity and kindness. Nurture yourself through it. These steps mirror the 4 foundations, translating ancient wisdom into accessible modern language. You don't have to do this perfectly. In the middle of a panic attack, you might only remember to do one foundation or part of one. That's enough. Any awareness helps. Any moment of remembering to observe rather than be overwhelmed, that's the practice working. When the day finally ends, how you close, it matters as much as how you began it. There was a parent who would lie in bed at night, mind racing through everything that went wrong, everything left undone, everything to worry about tomorrow. Sleep became impossible because they couldn't stop replaying and rehearsing. They learned a simple practice, releasing the day. 10 minutes before sleep, they'd do a gentle review, not judgment, just witnessing. How did I show up today? Where did I act in alignment with my values? Where did I struggle? What can I learn? This is reflection on sila, ethical conduct, that the Buddha taught. Not to beat yourself up over mistakes, but to learn, to notice patterns, to strengthen your capacity to act wisely. What went well today? Maybe you paused before reacting once. Maybe you were kind to yourself in a difficult moment. Maybe you took 3 conscious breaths when anxiety spiked. These small victories deserve recognition. Where did you struggle? What triggered anxiety? When did you react instead of respond? Not dwelling in shame, just noticing so you can bring more awareness next time. Practice forgiveness before sleep. For yourself, for the ways you fell short, for the moments you forgot, for being human and imperfect. For others, for the ways they hurt or disappointed you, releasing grudges before you carry them into tomorrow. The Buddha taught about letting go before sleep, about not carrying the day's burdens into rest. You can literally visualize setting down tomorrow's worries. I'll pick these up if I need them tomorrow. Tonight, I release them. A brief body scan helps the body release the day's tension. Starting at your feet, moving up slowly, noticing where you're holding stress, inviting release without forcing it. The body has been working hard all day. It deserves this gentle attention. Metta practice before sleep plants seeds of peace for the night. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I sleep with ease. May I wake refreshed. These wishes calm the nervous system, signal safety, prepare for rest. There was someone who struggled with insomnia, fighting sleeplessness every night, getting more anxious about not sleeping, which made sleep more impossible. They learned to make peace with wakefulness. If sleep didn't come, they'd practice meditation instead of fighting, lying peacefully, breathing, resting, even if not sleeping. Paradoxically, removing the fight often allowed sleep to arrive. You can even fall asleep with awareness, practicing meditation until consciousness fades into dreams. This isn't forcing anything, just maintaining gentle attention to breath or body until sleep naturally takes over. Create nighttime rituals that signal safety to your nervous system. Dim lights an hour before bed. Cool room temperature. Same time nightly if possible. No screens in bed. These aren't rules but invitations to help your body know it's time to rest. Rest itself is practice. Not productive, not achieving, just allowing your system to recover, to integrate the day, to prepare for tomorrow. There's wisdom in rest that our culture has forgotten. Tomorrow is a new day. Tonight, let yourself be held by this moment. Let the practices you've learned throughout the day support you now. You don't have to fix everything or figure everything out before you can rest. You just have to be here, breathing, alive, enough, exactly as you are. There was a student who started meditation with high hopes, practiced daily for 2 weeks, then missed a day, then 2, then a week. When they tried again, it felt harder than ever, and they thought, I've failed at this, too. This is where most people give up, believing progress should be linear, that once you start getting better, you keep getting better in a straight line, upward. But the path isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. You circle back to the same struggles, but each time with more understanding, greater capacity. Anxiety will return, sometimes with force, sometimes after weeks of feeling steady. This isn't failure. This is being human. This is where samavayama, right effort, becomes essential. The Buddha taught 4 components: prevent unwholesome states from arising through wise preparation, abandon unwholesome states that have arisen by meeting them with awareness, cultivate wholesome states through daily practice, and maintain wholesome states through consistency. But this is not striving or forcing. The Buddha compared it to tuning a lute. If the strings are too tight, they break. Too loose, they won't play. The music comes from finding the middle way between pushing too hard and giving up entirely. Even advanced practitioners have difficult days. Monks who've meditated for decades still experience restlessness and doubt. The difference is they don't make it mean something's wrong. They just meet it and continue. There's a story of a disciple who came to the Buddha 7 times, each time having fallen away from practice, each time ashamed. 7 times the Buddha welcomed him back. The falling and rising, the Buddha said, this is the path. Every moment is a new beginning. You haven't ruined anything by missing practice or experiencing intense anxiety after a period of peace. You can begin again right now with this breath. 1 breath is enough to start over. Transformation happens slowly, then suddenly, you practice without seeing much change. And then one day, you realize anxiety doesn't overwhelm you the way it used to, that something fundamental has shifted. But you don't have to do this alone. There was someone who practiced in isolation for years, convinced they had to figure this out by themselves. Then they found a weekly meditation group, and everything changed, not because the group gave magical solutions, but because they realized they weren't alone. The Buddha taught that Sangha, community, is one of the 3 jewels of practice, alongside the Buddha and the Dhamma. Not optional, but essential. In the Upada Sutta, when a disciple says friendship is half the holy life, the Buddha replies, not so. This is the entire holy life. Good friendship, good companionship. Sangha provides accountability, encouragement, shared practice, and wisdom from others further along the path. The Buddha called these Kalyana Mitra, spiritual friends who support your growth. Today, Sangha takes many forms: local meditation groups, Buddhist centers, online communities, practice apps, or one good friend who practices. Even therapy can be part of Sangha when working with trauma or clinical anxiety. Take 1 step toward connection this week. Attend 1 group, reach out to 1 person, join 1 online community. And know this: supporting others deepens your own practice through a beautiful feedback loop of giving and receiving. You're not meant to carry this alone. You're meant to walk alongside others, to remember, through each other's presence, that we're all finding our way together. There was someone who practiced consistently for a year, and when they looked back, they realized everything had changed, not dramatically, but profoundly. Let's be honest about what changes and what doesn't. What changes? Anxiety still visits, but doesn't move in or take over. You notice it sooner, respond rather than react. Recovery time gets faster. There's more space between stimulus and response. Moments of genuine peace increase. Relationships deepen because you're more present. Joy returns. Simple, ordinary joy you'd forgotten was possible. What doesn't change? Life still has challenges. Uncertainty remains. Loss, change, and difficulty still occur. The crucial difference is your relationship with difficulty transforms. The Buddha taught freedom not from discomfort, but from being controlled by it. This is the middle way, not fighting anxiety, not indulging it, but meeting it with aware presence and wise response. Like that panic attack that came and went without catastrophe, still uncomfortable, but no longer devastating. You'll remember who you were before fear took over. The expansion that happens is subtle but real. More capacity for all of life. More room to breathe. Small daily victories accumulate. Pausing before reacting. Choosing kindness. Resting in breath. Others notice the changes in you. Your peace affects those around you in ways you may never fully see. This is the ripple effect of practice. But let's be honest, some days will still be hard. And that's okay. You haven't failed when difficulty returns. You're just human, walking this path one breath at a time. We've traveled so far together. We met the roots of anxiety in attachment and craving. We learned the Four Noble Truths, that suffering exists, has a cause, can cease, and there's a path forward. We explored impermanence and non-self, understanding that anxiety is weather passing through the vast sky of your being. We practiced mindfulness and meditation, anapanasati with the breath, kayagatasati with the body, metta for yourself and all beings. We learned the 4 foundations of mindfulness for moments when anxiety strikes hard. We brought it all into daily life. Morning intentions, micro moments of peace, evening reflections. We faced the inevitable setbacks and discovered the essential role of community. The practices await your return: breath meditation, loving, kindness, the 4 foundations, daily micro moments of presence. They're always here. Always available, always working, if you work them. The Buddha's final teaching was this: be a lamp unto yourself. From the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, these words mean, rely on the Dhamma, the teachings, not magical thinking. Your own experience is the laboratory. No one can walk this path for you. But you have the map, and you're not alone. Start where you are, with what you have. The practice is simple, not easy. Keep beginning, again and again. Transformation doesn't come through one perfect practice, but through returning, repeatedly, imperfectly, with compassion. Thank you for your courage in showing up, for listening, for being willing to try. If this resonated, leave a comment about where you're listening from. Share one insight that landed for you. We're building a community of practice, and your presence matters. You don't need to be different tomorrow. Just notice what's here today. Just take one breath with awareness. That's enough. You're enough. As the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. But walking doesn't mean walking alone. Until we meet again, may you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. May you know your own goodness. If you'd like, stay with me for a few more minutes as we rest together. Find a comfortable position. You can lie down, close your eyes, or simply rest where you are. There's nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to do. Bring your awareness to your body, starting at the crown of your head. Notice any sensations there: warmth, coolness, tingling, or nothing particular. No need to change anything, just notice. Let your awareness move slowly down through your face, your jaw, your neck. Soften any tension you find. Soften your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Notice your chest rising and falling with breath. Your belly soft, your back supported, your hips, your legs, your feet resting. All you've learned today is now part of you. Seeds have been planted. They'll grow in their own time, in their own way. Imagine roots growing down from your body, connecting you to the earth, to stability, to support. Imagine peace settling into your bones, into your cells, becoming part of you. Now silently offer these wishes. May I be free from danger. May I have mental happiness. May I have physical happiness. May I live with ease. And extending outward, may all beings be free from anxiety. May all beings know peace. Acknowledge the courage it took to be here, to listen, to practice, to keep trying, even when it's hard. You showed up. That matters more than you know. There's nothing to do now, nowhere to go. Just rest in this moment, in this breath, in the peace that's always been here beneath the anxiety, waiting for you to remember it. Gratitude for your own heart, for your own persistence, for your willingness to begin again. When you're ready, no rush, you can open your eyes, return to your day, carrying this peace with you. May all beings be free from anxiety. May all beings know peace.